Joining us now is Kachi Ofia with stories trending around the world, and she's going to catch all those stories.
Yes,
hello, Kachi.
Good morning,
Please
Dr. Obati. I am happy to. Good morning, Vimbai.
Good morning,
Don't be
Kachi
surprised
FX.
if you see me, thank you, with this hairstyle
Yes.
tomorrow. Just don't be surprised. Everyone should just
go
accept
for
it because
Go
it's
for it.
stunning.
I wish I could just take it off.
I will take it on. All right, viewers, good morning. Let's take a look at what's trending today. So the Senate President Godswill Akpabio was trending on social media yesterday after a now viral video showed him saying poverty is not a crime and in some cases can be considered a virtue. He made the comment in Rome while speaking after attending the funeral of Pope Francis. Let's take a look and then we'll check out some reactions online.
The man who died as a man today, the Pope, who was worth only $100, showing that yes, you cannot worship God in splendor, and that the best way to worship God is to worship God through self-sacrifice for others. So the message is very clear that Nigerians should love one another, and that poverty is not a crime, and that poverty could sometimes be a virtue of God, and that whatever you have, you should be able to share with your brothers and sisters.
Take a look at some of the reactions to poverty is a virtue. Jerry said poverty is a virtue from God, said Akpabio, the Senate President of Nigeria. This comment reflects a troubling mindset. It's hard to believe someone in such a position could express such a thought without understanding its implications, especially during these trying times in our dear country. This raises questions about empathy and responsibility. If our leaders were truly dedicated to serving the people, the average Nigerian would be able to live comfortably and meet basic needs of life: food, housing, education. Unfortunately, the reality is quite the opposite. Nigeria is rich in resources, and if they were properly managed, no one will rant. Akpabio should rather focus on controlling. Can I say that word? Yeah, I cannot say that word. I cannot say that word. Rather than saying all of this, a dirty man in and out. Okay, let's move on to the next tweet. K8S tweeted, hope the Senate President knows that the Pope gave his $32,000 monthly salary to the needy. He gave out a Lamborghini, giving to him out. He uses his personal money for charity, and the Pope was not indeed poor, but selfless, which is an attribute of a true leader. The Senate President's message is misleading and deceptive. Busayo also tweeted, she said, poverty is not a virtue and not from God. God has given humanity everything we need to be prosperous. Arable land for farming, natural resources everywhere, especially in my country, Nigeria. No state in Nigeria is without resources for the prosperity of her people. Now, I think, Dr. Bati, you'd always talk about context, Vimbai. Context to every statement that is made is key. Now, in the context of what the Senate President was saying, I believe he was talking about the Christian virtue of not being covetous or looking at somebody else's property and longing for your own, being content with what you have. But in a situation where we're in a country that ideally, if people had what they needed, their basic Maslow hierarchy of needs, the basic things that they need to survive, then they can decide to choose whether or not they want to give it out or they want to live a more modest life. But we're in a situation where the people here do not have a choice. They're forced to live a lot of times in abject poverty. In that case, is it truly a virtue then?
Okay, two things. Context that you talked about. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, led the Nigerian delegation to the burial of Pope Francis. And it was in that context that he was talking about poverty. A pope, at the burial of a pope who chose the Jesuit, part of the Catholic Church, the Society of Jesus, it is called, who took a vow of poverty after the fashion example of his patron Saint Assisi, Saint Francis Assisi, and in that regard, the Pope, when he died, his entire patrimony was $100. He said he should bury him in a wooden casket he was a very humble man. He was a pope of the poor, a pope who promoted the prophetic church. I want to think that it is in that context that the Senate President Godswill Akpabio was talking about poverty can be a virtue, because everybody, praising Pope Franciscus, for the fact that he lived a very simple life. In terms of messaging, yes, we can deal with that. But when the Senate President went further and said poverty is not a crime, if he was speaking in a general sense in that regard, then you can understand when Nigerians are a bit uncomfortable. What does it mean that poverty is not a crime? Is he recommending that Nigerians should be luxuriating in poverty, what is called multidimensional poverty, which even the World Bank and the IMF now say is going to get worse in Nigeria? So the timing of that kind of comment, that poverty is not a crime. So Nigerians will legitimately ask him, does he know what poverty is? He has been commissioner. He has been governor. He is Senate president. He is a political leader. He is leading delegations. You don't go and tell people, who are struggling, going about with these pockets are still empty.
We need to help Dr. Avanti's pockets.
People like us who are going about with empty pockets, that poverty is not a crime. No, poverty becomes a crime when people in his position describes it as such. Because the responsibility of government is to ensure the welfare of the people, to spread prosperity, to give the people hope. So for a leader coming from a country saying, you can be poor, it's not a crime, be like Pope Francis. No, it's not every Nigerian that wants to have a patrimony of $100. There are people who say that, look, this wealth that belongs to Nigeria, share it equitably. Let us all have access to what is available in this country. So that's where I think that the Senate President may run into trouble, because we see our leaders living it up, everybody enjoying and all of that. And we, the people, we are the ones who have to worry about food inflation. We are the ones who have to worry about NIMET officials. They're down tools because their salaries have not been paid, right? In the FCT, school teachers, nurses, midwives, they went onto the streets to protest. So you go and tell those people that poverty is not a crime. They should enjoy it. No. So that's where the problem is. But as for the delegation, I think it's important. It was good to see Nigerians there, both those led by Senator Akpabio and those who went in their capacity as Catholics. And now that the conclave is going to convene by May 7th, it's also gratifying to know that one of the cardinals who will choose the next pope will be the Bishop of Ekulobia. The Bishop of Ekulobia, he is 62. It fits into, the age range. You must be below 80 for you to qualify. So Cardinal Okpaleke will be representing us, in that conclave. Yeah. So we also have a stake in the future of the Catholic Church.
Absolutely. That's a very important point to note.
Well, very quickly, Kachi, I think it's very important that we don't glamorize poverty, because this is a trend that we've seen gain momentum, where I believe it's called poverty porn, where we glamorize poverty and we try to make it seem as though, well, this is one of those ills that exists, so we normalize it and we just say, they're the poor. And we speak down on the poor and we speak down on poverty as though those people chose to be in that condition. So to say poverty is not a crime, poverty is a virtue, it's hugely unfair and actually very insulting to those people who are waking up every day to try and do what they can. They work the hardest, by the way.
Yes.
For 70,000 naira, many are still earning less than that. So to start saying poverty is not a crime, okay, fine. If we're going to have a conversation about some of the virtues that we should emulate, and if we're trying to say that take heart, if you're at the bottom of society, it's not the end of the world, then as a leader, he should start by leading. Let's see him emulate the humility, the prudence, the modesty. Let's see it from him, because just from looking at the pictures of that outing at the Pope's funeral, look at that massive delegation. Was it necessary to have all of those people there for the Pope's burial? Yeah, fine, maybe if they'd gone on their own personal tickets. But you look at this and you say, you know, some nations had a head of state and first lady, and of course the entourage that follows. But you know, Nigeria had this large delegation. You ask yourself, then you now start saying poverty is a crime, and it's just very insulting and very unfair when we have leaders talking down on citizens as if they are not doing their best, given the circumstances, to try and make ends meet. Of course, poverty is not a crime, but maybe if it's not a crime, then maybe he should just taste it small first to see if, you know, to see if it won't pain him. Like, because trust me, poverty feels like a crime.
It does.
It feels like, who did you?
It's a burden. It's a heavy one.
Yeah.
And to say that just shows that, you know, there's truly a disconnect where you're not really aware of what the people are feeling. But let's take another story. Speaking about a disconnection, the Akwa Ibom State government has introduced a policy requiring health workers to sign a bond committing to serve the state for a set period. This move aims to curb the exodus of medical professionals, commonly referred to as japa. Now, under this new policy, health workers must take an oath and enter into a contract binding them to serve within the state for a specific duration. This initiative is part of the government's broader efforts to retain medical personnel and stabilize the health system. Now, the move reflects Akwa Ibom's interestingly proactive approach to tackling the growing concern of healthcare worker migration in Nigeria. Why do we always miss the point? Healthcare worker migration is in fact a big problem. A lot of health workers, a lot of people in tech are leaving. There's an exodus of these jobs. People are saying they want to look for greener pastures. But committing these people to, if you ask me, this is not a contract, is where you have two parties agreeing to the terms of the document. This is not a contract. This is to say we are compelling you and cajoling you to stay, because they need to agree for it to become a contract. But when you say it is now a policy, that takes away the contractual part of the entire conversation. It's no longer a contract. But then compelling these young people to say they're going to stay on what basis? What welfare is available to them as health workers? How are we sure that they will be able to practice and learn in the most efficient environments possible? So are we putting the cat before the horse? Because I'm not sure this is the solution to the problem.
Okay. Look, you use the word bond, that the state government in Akwa Ibom is, signing bond with healthcare workers. I will assume that bond or the contract that you talk about will mean that the state government is responsible for the training of these health workers. We have it. If, an agency or a state government is responsible for your training, they are giving you scholarship, they are paying for your studies, they are responsible for your training, they may say, okay, you take this training, you sign this document, and say, after your training, you will work for the state government for a certain number of years.
Yes.
After that, you can be free. If you are not free, outside that contractual bond agreement, then that will be slavery, which is against all known human rights conventions. So we need to know the details. Is the state government going to train these persons? If the state government is not the one training them, paying for their training, then the state government has no moral right to say you cannot take your talent where you can get the best service, remuneration, appreciation for your talent. The second thing is that we're in the age of globalization. So that this migration of labor is part of the reality of a globalized age. Talent, skills will go where they can be better, appreciated and remunerated. Number three, it comes with a touch of irony. That at least one state is saying, oh, doctors, nurses, midwives, health workers have to stay in Nigeria. In this same country, we had a minister of labor who said, look, you people can go wherever you want to go. We have more than enough. You can go anyway. But the truth of the matter is that we have healthcare migration. You find doctors, nurses, all of them, most of them live in Nigeria because they get better opportunities elsewhere. The challenge is for the Nigerian government, whether state, local, or federal, to make sure that there are opportunities not just for medical doctors or health workers, also for every skilled person or anybody in this environment to fulfill their dream inside Nigeria and to be properly taken care of by state and employers of labor. I always tell this story of someone who said, oh, he had an ailment, he went to South Africa. Somebody told him, oh, there's this special expert, he's the best in that field. Another is in South Africa. He said when he got to the hospital, they admitted him, they put him in this same expert they were talking about came out, a Nigerian. And he said, do you mean I left Lagos to come and be treated by a Nigerian in South Africa? And that is the truth that many persons have confronted. Nigeria is providing specialists, experts for other countries of the world because we have not created an enabling environment for our people to stay at home and contribute to the growth of this country. Even when we now entice those people in diaspora, we bring them back, we say there's a new government, we frustrate most of them with the way we run this country. A country should be able to keep its own talents and give them opportunities. This is the challenge. Well, sometimes maybe I too should japa.
Should japa, right? Vimba, what about you?
No, she jackpot already.
I jackpot already. Well, I can reach. I can do it.
She came from Zimbabwe and came to join us.
I love Nigeria so much. Honestly, with all of its challenges, I really love it here. I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. That's a sidebar, right?
No, you are here for life.
I'm here for life.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking about japa, but bonding in the healthcare sector is common. I believe it's done in the UK, even in the US and Canada and so forth. And ultimately, it's almost like an internship scheme where you're saying that I've given you a scholarship and in return for that scholarship, you're now going to have to serve me for such and such a number of years. So the important things that we have to note in that is, number one, Akwa Ibom government, we need to ensure that they are taking on the entire scholarship, the entire cost of whatever that training is, and all welfare involved in that. That's number one. And then number two, when it comes to that bonding stage or the internship stage, if I may call it that, again, the conditions that they work in, because most healthcare workers are leaving because they'll tell you, but we don't have the necessary tools, we don't have, it's just such a depressing sector to work in, especially for those who are working in the public sector of healthcare. So at the end of the day, yes, this is something that can be done, but it doesn't address our root challenges, which is how can we create a system? Where can our social spending supplement the fact that our healthcare sector is suffering? Thousands living in their droves. We barely have enough doctors to meet our needs in the private sector, let alone in the public sector. So I think it's a great initiative if it's executed correctly, along with all the other buffers that are still required in the healthcare sector.
Well, that's absolutely correct. Let's now take our final story. Damilola Adini Adegeye, the daughter of the Juju legend King Sunny Ade, has accused her stepbrother Dayo of holding the 78-year-old singer hostage. In a series of Instagram story posts, Damilola alleged that Dayo, that's her stepbrother that is, described as King Sunny Ade's manager, kidnapped him with the help of his mother, brothers Demola and Kenny, and their driver. She claimed the singer's whereabouts remain unknown and accused Dayo of misleading the family. Now, Damilola is based in the UK. She also alleged that Dayo is forcing King Sunny Ade to work under duress without sharing the financial benefits with the family. She has now called on the Nigerian police to intervene and urged the public not to book the singer for any events. As of the time of this report, Dayo had not responded, but he did comment briefly on this topic. Just to take that briefly, to say that he, first of all, is not the manager. He's not King Sunny Ade's manager, that he's just helping in his capacity as a son, and went on to say that he's only just trying to see how he can help him do the work that he already does, that he is not kidnapped, that if his stepsister wants to see him, she's in the UK, she can come back to Nigeria and see him at any time. But what he will not tolerate is where she starts to speak ill of him or disrespect him. I know there was also an investigative journalist that looked into this to say that people who could reach King Sunny Ade before all of a sudden cannot reach him anymore. So the story is still, there's a huge question mark around what exactly is going on and what the truth is.
Well, look, there are elements of sibling rivalry here. Coming out of the polygamous setup, children from different mothers, you will find this kind of a situation. But I think that, look, Damilola says my father is missing, Dayo says our father is not missing. I think King Sunny Ade, 78-year-old, a legend, a living legend. He should just step out and he himself should just say, well, I'm here, I'm not missing. Don't mind these children looking for their father. I'm sure maybe the old man is somewhere, just having fun and preparing for the next
his next show. May not even be
for his next performance. Don't worry, children will be children. But King Sunny Ade, lives forever in terms of his achievements.
I just wanted to say that's how they said Two-Face had also been kidnapped and was missing. So, but he wasn't. I don't like family issues playing out in public.
I agree.
I do hope they find him and resolve whatever their issues are.
I think so too. Well, that will be all for me on What's Trending today.